God didn't bear your gift. You did. And the crazy part is, you had an excuse for every time something didn't go your way. Listen, I'm going to keep it real funky with you because in this video, I'm going to show you the 3 reasons why most believers don't multiply the gifts that they were supposed to be sharing. And this comes from someone who spent years in a state of confusion, in a state of disarray, in a state of, almost depression because I was trying to fight against what God has already given me and what God has commanded me. It was only when I read the parable of the talents in the story of Jonah where I completely realized that it was my actions that was holding me back. And I'm going to share the lessons that I learned with you. The point that completely changed my thought process on why things weren't getting solved and why things weren't happening in my way is because I was going against God in the sense I was looking for permission from people that wasn't God. You know, when God gives you a vision, he gives you the vision intended for you only to take that, to plan, to make sure that everything is working in order. Once you come up with a plan, you strategize, and then briefly after strategy, you go and do that thing. But when I first started out, I would talk to a teacher. I would talk to a parent. I would talk to a friend. I would talk to anyone and everyone about the vision that God has given me. And they would have their thoughts. They would nitpick what God had given me to do. And at the end of the day, since I'm a very analytical person, I can overthink everything to the ends of the world. I would take those opinions and those reservations from other people, and it would get to the point where I would just completely forget about the vision that God has given me. And it would get to the point where I would delay the obedience that God has given me because I'm focused on the opinions of others. And that stopped me for the longest time because God is wanting me to do certain things in my life. He's given me mission and a calling and, vision on exactly what needs to be done. And I'll take that, I'll tell my wife or I'll tell my friends or, I'll tell my pastor and, all these people have great intentions. But at the end of the day, nothing trumps what has given you. And when God gives you something, you have to remove the perfection from it and start doing it. And like I was saying earlier, the parable of talents kind of opened my eyes to this because I believe that the servant knew exactly what needed to happen with that talent. Like the servant said to multiply it, and I believe he knew exactly what needed to happen. But I believe the over analyzing and the getting opinions from other people stopped him from actually taking action and going out and putting it into the marketplace and multiplying the thing that the master had given him. And not only was that master mad, like he said, you could have at least put it in a bank. Like you could have gained interest off of it. Just, it wouldn't have been a lot, but you could have gained, some interest on that. Not only was he upset about that, he called that servant wicked because he got too much into his head. He took the time to negotiate the charge that God had given him, and it blew up in his face. Like seeking permission from other people, it might seem noble at first, but it can really be dangerous when it comes to God's gifts and what he's called you to do. And point two. So point two is actually even more crazy because I dealt with this hardcore. And if you're anything like me, I put a lot of time into preparation. And sometimes I put so much time into analyzing strategy and preparation and, spending endless hours on YouTube trying to learn the thing and creating playlists. Like for example, I'm starting golf, this summer. And for example, I'm starting golf this summer. And the first thing I do is get on YouTube, get on Instagram. I create a playlist of, a video about how to get a good golf swing, the difference between a driver and a wedge, and, the different types of irons, and, how to putt, and what are the different parts of the field, the point system, all that stuff. And I analyze and analyze and analyze and analyze. And then it becomes to a point where it becomes procrastination. And I completely am left in the tracks because I want to perfect everything before I even put and step foot on the field. And that happened with my content creation journey. When I was given the charge by God to create content, I followed all the people like Omar El Takori and, all the people on YouTube telling you how to start a YouTube channel and how to grow a YouTube channel and all this stuff. And I would watch their videos, and there's nothing wrong with the information. There's nothing wrong with the wisdom, but it gets to a point where you take so much information in that you overthink every decision you make. And since you overthink every decision you make, you're confused with the first step you should be making, instead of just keeping a blind eye, getting one little sliver of wisdom and a little sliver of a system, and then just running with that. And that stopped me for the longest time. And for you, like, don't overanalyze making content. I swear to you, if you just take the first step, if you just hit record, I'm recording on an iPhone, and I don't plan on changing to an expensive camera and all that stuff, because it's not necessary. If I showed you my system right now, I have a $15 light lighting me. I have my laptop, MacBook, or whatever you got. And then I got a tripod that's magnetized to my iPhone. These things are inexpensive compared to what I actually have to do. And that's turn on the record. When I see that red light, start talking like I normally would to anyone else. God has given me the gift of coaching. God has given me the gift of teaching. God has given me the gift of, creating stories and relaying confusing information and making it palatable to the normal person. I can overanalyze how I need to get this stuff across because I have that perfectionist mindset. And I had to be real with myself and say, hey, like, I gotta get this content out. I gotta stop. I gotta start doing this because this is crazy. Like, I need to start making content without trying to be perfect. And so that's really what changed for me. And I hope this helps you. I hope this changes your perspective on, yes, there's an aspect of preparation. You should be prepared. You should have strategy. But there's a thin line between preparation and perfection, because that perfection becomes procrastination, and procrastination just becomes plain old disobedience. And we don't want that. Now, this last point was a doozy, and I've talked to and coached so many people when it concerns this. And I don't know what it is, but Christians, they fail at being successful for this one thing. And it really blows my mind. Like, a lot of Christians believe, oh, because I believe in Christ and Christ got me, I don't have to lift a finger, and I don't have to have a clear strategy and system and consistency to fulfill the calling that God has given me. It's almost like they expect God to throw it in their hands instead of being consistent with a system. In order to do the thing that God has given you, there is a level of consistency that needs to happen. And a system is the only way consistency can happen. And so at the beginning of my content creation journey, God has called me to create content specifically so I can coach people. But at the beginning, I was creating YouTube video here and there, maybe like one YouTube video a month. And then I would fall off for 3 months, and then 6 months. And then I would come back, and then I would post 3 videos. And then because I post 3 videos in 1 week, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's it for a year. I'll be back in a year. And that inconsistency taught me that the calling that God has given me isn't important enough for me to take it serious. And people think that, oh, because it's God's calling, I'll do it for the first month, or I'll do it for the first 2 weeks. And if it doesn't feel good, if it doesn't feel right, if I'm not encouraged to do it, if I'm not gung-ho and on fire about posting or doing or showing up, that means, maybe God didn't call me to do it. And no, that's the furthest from the truth. We will face various trials, but when we face those trials, the difference between someone who is successful in God's kingdom versus someone who just isn't going to get a good life in God's kingdom is because you're not consistent enough, man. You're not consistent. And I'm talking to me. I'm talking to both of us because I was not consistent. I'll tell you that right now. It was bad. Like the consistency was just on zero. And because I was living this delusion of, if it's of God, then I have to feel prepared. If it's of God, then I have to feel like I want to do it. If it's of God, then I have to be on fire for it. And that's the furthest from the truth. That's the furthest from the truth. Just because something comes from God doesn't mean you're going to feel super gung-ho about it. And that's okay. That's why God has given us a system. That's why God has given us processes. Because in the moments where we feel discouraged, that's the key point, feel. In those moments where we feel discouraged, we can still push forward. It says, not my will, but let your will be done. When Jesus was on the Garden of Gethsemane, like Jesus didn't want to die for our sins. But at the end of the day, he was like, this is my mission on here on earth. It's far more important than what I feel in the moment. The pain that I might feel, that I'm seeing, the anxiety, the fear, all this stuff, the fear of being hurt and all this stuff. The mission is far more important than the feeling. And I had to really shape my mind around being consistent, being disciplined, because that changed the whole game for me. And to keep it practical, making content, I had to make a system for myself. I can't spend a lot of time focusing on creating content for hours and hours and hours. I'm a dad. I'm a full-time, working adult with a wife, kids, 3 kids. Like, I have a full schedule on my hands. And so I had to create a system for myself, like, making content in 30 minutes. You split it into 10-minute sections, the ideation, recording, and, the whole thing. And if you want the system, I got a link down below. It's 100% free. You can gain access to the same thing. And I really hope it helps you, because at the end of the day, God has truly called his people to create content, not because he wants you to look fancy and perfect on YouTube videos. It's because he has called you to multiply whatever gifting that he's put in your heart, whatever gifting that he's given you. There's a transformation for someone on the other end of you making content and multiplying yourself. And so let this be information and wisdom to you, to take these 3 points and to move forward. But that's it for me. I hope you have a great day. I've created this new channel to show you guys from square one how a consistent person who is focused and who has a strategy can really multiply themselves and to make real difference and also make money into it as well. So I hope you have a great day. Peace.